Right now, I do want to bring in Jonathan Conricus, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He previously served with the Israel Defense Forces for nearly 30 years and is a familiar face because he was the former IDF spokesperson, joining us a lot when the war did begin. Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be on Fox.
And I did want to start off by asking you, we do get some details here about that ceasefire deal and what it consists of. Is there anything for you personally that maybe stood out to you about that deal?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, first and foremost, we are talking about a ceasefire deal, which may in the future, God willing, bring about peace. Regional peace, normalization, prosperity. That's, in the distant future. Currently, it is a ceasefire deal and a hostage release deal. And that is no small achievement. That is something that has been elusive for so many months, for 2 years. And I am very, very excited, hopeful, excited to see our brothers come home, our 48 brothers and one sister. Most of them are alive. Most of them sadly are not alive. Some of them are alive, and we're really eager to see all of them back home again. And that is a tremendous achievement of President Trump, his team, his style of diplomacy. Nobody else has been able to do it so far, and that is a very good development. However, the deal is very good in its core. But there are many parts of the deal that I think Hamas will fight tooth and nail in order to obfuscate, delay, and eventually to erode and not to fulfill. And the big challenge here will be, how will Israel respond? What kind of leeway will President Trump allow Israel in terms of making sure that the deal is enforced? Because if this deal isn't enforced beyond hostages, then it means that we will have to go back to war. And that's a scenario that we really want to prevent. And it's definitely time to move on here and build a better future. But it can only happen if Hamas is really disarmed and won't be able to control the Gaza Strip in the future.
We've seen a lot of deals here that have been talked about. There have been a word of different agreements that have been made, and then they fall through. So can you kind of go into detail on your perspective? What maybe makes this one more credible, more probable to actually be upheld than some of the others that we've seen?
Presidential power and leadership, a president who is personally vested with his presidential prestige on the line, invested in it, and personal attention to the matter. That's number one and easiest, the most important factor. Number two, that President Trump and his team were able to get Arab and Muslim countries on board. And Qatar and Turkey, and Egypt to a certain extent, but Qatar and Turkey are Hamas supporters. They are state sponsors of terrorism. They are countries that really helped Hamas over the years in investment, research and development, political ties and funding. And for President Trump to have been able to get these two countries, Qatar and Turkey, to tell Hamas that Hamas's time is up and that Hamas needs to be disarmed, and everybody's eagerly waiting, the families who have been waiting for so long. But if we keep, our eyes at the strategic level, there's still a lot of room for concern here, and we'll see what kind of surprises Hamas will try to spring upon us.
I did also want to ask you, what do we know about the Palestinian prisoners that will be released as a part of this deal? Because it's not equivalent to the number of hostages, of course, and not even close. So what do we actually know about those prisoners?
Yeah, it's more than 5 times as many than the Israeli hostages. And we're talking about 250 of convicted terrorists with lots and lots of blood on their hands. They are all of them convicted terrorists doing life sentences, many of them multiple life sentences in Israeli prisons after they either masterminded or organized or tried to execute suicide bombings, IED attacks and explosive charges and mass murder attacks in Israel, most of them against Israeli civilians. That is the type of Palestinian terrorists that Hamas wants out, and they are the ones that sadly it's been agreed by Israel to release 250 of them. Hamas also demanded symbols of Palestinian so-called resistance, like Marwan Barghouti and others. Israel has said clearly no. We're not going to release him or other symbols. They demanded the bodies of the late leader of Hamas in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, the man who masterminded the October 7 attack and executed it. That is also a flat no. But what we're going to see is the release of 250 heavy terrorists with Israeli and American blood on their hands. They're going to go back to the Gaza Strip. And of course, that will be a security challenge for the future. We're going to have to monitor them very closely. And the moment that they transgress from what they have committed not to do, which is to go back to terrorism, undoubtedly they will. The moment that they do, Israel needs to be on them with swift justice and not bring them back to Israeli prisons, but to deliver justice in a more finite and irreversible way.
And my last question for you here, how significant is it that President Trump has now been invited to address the Knesset? The last time a U.S. president did that was George W. Bush. That was all the way back in 2008. So how significant is that?
I think it's very significant, and I think it's very fitting for this great American president to be invited to address the Israeli parliament. If he would, spend more time in Israel, he would be welcome everywhere he would go. If he would go to the hostage square, he would be overwhelmed with love of ordinary Israelis who would show their genuine love and gratitude for what he and his team have done, and really to show how thankful they are for him caring about Israeli hostages. It is no small thing, not taken for granted by ordinary Israelis, not politicians, not the most polished people. And they'll say, I love this guy because he cares. You could see that he genuinely cared about the suffering of our hostages. So if President Trump will have more time, then he could, make speeches all across Israel, and he would have record crowds, and he would be met with lots of love. So I think it's a symbolic moment. I suppose he's timing the moment of his visit to the release of most of the live hostages, to have that split screen of the president here and hostages reunited with their families, which is the moment that we're all waiting for.